Hello, everyone. I'm the Bodacious Cowboy with my co-host, Christy Knichel. Are you ready for a special edition of the Storytelling Chronicles? We are. Let's go.
Look out! Pop, pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Showed up. I'm wearing Cuban links. Yeah. Designer mix. Yeah. Inglewood's finest shoes. Whoop, whoop. Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to give the color red the blues.
Hello, everyone. I am the Bodacious Cowboy. It is Monday, March 25th. We have a great show today. First, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Taft's and Freight Validate, to make this podcast happen. So thank you, guys. We have a great guest today. I have my co-host, as usual, Christy Knichel from Knichel Logistics. How you doing?
Doing great. Just got back from Denver. It was actually sunny and near 70, believe it or not, while it was like kind of snowing in Pittsburgh. So at least the sun's out today. That's all I can say.
How was that show anyway?
It was awesome. There was over 5,000 attendees. A lot of them women, probably 90% or 95% women. So it's definitely a good show. I got my steps in, that's for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like a WIT event, because usually that's the same case. We have definitely more women than men there. But hopefully what we're doing on this show will get more males involved into empowering women into logistics or maritime or supply chain or any part of the industry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So let's bring in our guest. Casey.
Yeah.
You want to go and do the introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. Stacey Gibson. She's currently the manager of enterprise risk operations at the Peoplease Group, formerly ops manager at TLC Companies, a Peoplease Group company. Over 25 years of experience in human resources, safety, and operations management. 9 of those years were focused on transportation. So let's bring her in.
Hey, Stacey, how are you?
Good morning or good afternoon. Gosh, well, already. It's Monday.
Yes, and your day is going by really, really slow.
Yeah, and I would also say, though, in transportation, I think this happens to all of us. We don't know what the hell time it is. We don't know where we are. We don't know where to even get to where we need to go.
So, until we get there.
Eventually.
Right.
Thanks for joining the show today. We're excited to speak with you about empowering women into logistics and kind of knock that out today.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, Stacey and I met last year, I believe, or maybe a year before on Sales Chatter Live when we did empowering women into the industry about a year ago. And we actually went out to dinner and we had a great conversation. She really knows her business really, really well. And hopefully the audience will have great takeaways from this episode today.
Yeah. So why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about your background, your upbringing, and why empowering women into logistics is important to you.
Sure. So background, like you mentioned in the intro, so over 25 years in HR, safety, operations management, all of those good fun things. The last 9 years have been focused in transportation. So very heavily focused on really, driver qualification and driver hiring, DOT compliance and safety, and all the pieces around that. Driver health and wellness has always also been a big focus for me and something that, also try to, have conversations with my clients about, and, as well as any carrier out there, have actually had conversations with drivers as well and tried to support them on some of their health journeys, because if they're not healthy, they're not getting, their physicals passed, and that doesn't do any of us any good, right? So we have to really make sure that the men and women out there are staying healthy, because that's also, promotes safety as well. So got into transportation, these last 9 years, it was unexpected. It wasn't anything planned. Um, it was a wonderful, wonderful transition. And I have just, I don't even know. Clearly, I can't even, use my words to describe what the experience has been. I've absolutely loved it. I've fallen in love with the industry. And, it's kind of now been I feel like my life's work to tell anybody and everybody about it, to build the interest in the industry. Right. And obviously that kind of segues into, speaking with women about it. Right. I mean, that's, really kind of what we're here to talk about, predominantly today, is just empowering women, empowering them within this wonderful, fun, interesting industry, and just to encourage them to, to explore all the opportunities that are out there within the industry. So.
Yeah, and I know you're a huge advocate for women in trucking, and we talked about that much. You know what? I think the most important question that comes up is, what does the phrase empower women mean to you, and how do you live it daily?
Sure. It's about mentorship, right? I mean, I think everybody, men or women, I think we all want someone to look up to, right? Someone to aspire to. And that's what that is for me. So, obviously I have women within this industry and outside of the industry that I look up to, and want to emulate, right? And how I lead my teams and how I conduct myself, in a professional manner, and everywhere I go and what I do. So mentorship is a huge piece of that. Encouragement, right? We all need a cheerleader to let us know we're doing good. I mean, we can pat ourselves on the back for some stuff, but it's really nice to hear from someone else too, right? I mean, if someone that I really admired or looked up to happened to say, hey, you did a really great job on that, or I saw this thing and saw that you did it and it was great, or any kind of comment like that. I mean, that just makes you want to go out and do more of that, right? And so encouragement from your peers, and then just having a sounding board, right? I mean, I can't speak for men, but for women, we like to have that sounding board. We like to have that person we can go to just either vent or, run something by, or, say, does this sound crazy? Or, I really want to try this thing, is that crazy? Is that nuts? Do you think that's a possibility? So, just being that person for someone. You mentioned women in trucking, Jeff. Yes, I'm a huge supporter of that organization. I think they do a fabulous job of promoting women in the industry, and really educating, everyone of, just the benefit of having more women in your company, especially on the transportation side. So for me, that's what it means. And I try to, live that every day. I think it was last year. I'm like you, Jeff, gosh, time flies, right? It's like, was that last year? Was that year before? But I kind of went into the year, with, it wasn't, a New Year's resolution, but just something that I said, you know what? And I talk the talk, right? Let me walk the walk, because I don't know that I am, maybe I am and just don't realize it. But part of that was supporting women in joining women in trucking, right? So, you helped me with that. You jumped on board with that, Ryan, and, everybody, several other people joined us in that, right? And so we were giving away women in trucking memberships, and it was so fun. We had so much fun doing that, and it was so great to be able to help some women out who, for whatever reason, either they just they couldn't afford it, or, you know, it was one of those like, oh, I keep meaning to. So we just kind of took away any excuse or barrier for them to be able to join and said, here you go, you know, and, you know, use it for everything that it's worth. Right. So,
Absolutely.
I
you
like
know,
that.
that was, that
So
was fun.
Yeah.
So
well,
you mentioned about, you know, mentorship and women that you look up to. Can you name a couple women that you look up to that maybe have come along the way, and maybe some other women that you'd like to reach out to that maybe you haven't talked to before?
Sure. I mean, I have obviously just, you know, women locally. Are we good on internet? I feel like I saw a little crackling.
Yeah, there is a little bit on your end, but that's all right. Keep
yeah,
going.
we're good. We're good.
Okay.
It wasn't me.
So it was right. So certainly have some local women that I look up to. I've just recently, well, I say recently, it's been a couple of years now, but moved back home to Tennessee, and so have joined a local women's group here. And what they do is really support local nonprofit organizations in the community. And so, you know, I've attended several meetings now and really have gotten to know some of these women. So, you know, I've just been enthralled with the work that they've done and what they're doing now, and am so excited to be a part of it moving forward. Some women in the industry that I look up to, I mean, Shelly Simpson is a freaking rock star. And for anybody that's watching, or Christy, I don't know if you were at the Women in Trucking Convention last year.
I was not, but I know who she is. I have talked to her. We do plan on having her on our show. So I'm in an intermodal business, and that's what she does.
Mhm.
So we share
Yep.
that same niche.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have not personally met her, never met her, other than, you know, seeing everything, you know, just from a news standpoint or anything like that. But she spoke and was awarded last year at the Women in Trucking Conference. And her story that she shared, I mean, if there was a dry eye in that room, then that person was not paying attention. That's all I could say. You know, you weren't listening. But how inspiring to hear her story and how she's moved up within that company.
It's amazing.
And, you know, the encouragement of the company and the leadership in that company, you know, and how that move happened is it's just amazing to listen to, and extremely inspiring. So, you know, so many women, you know, Ellen Voya, who started Women in Trucking. I mean, my Lord.
Right.
You know, it's like,
I've known Ellen for a long time too, and she helped me out early in my career. And honestly, like, to watch what she has built too, because I was there from the very beginning of that happening to where she's at today. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Those are two very powerful women in our industry.
Oh,
Yeah, and
yeah.
don't forget Shelley Walker, counterpart in Canada to Ellen Voy.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's a powerful woman as well.
Yeah.
And, I've spoken to her a couple of times. And, yeah, I mean, those are the type of people that are definitely helping to move the peanut forward, sort of speaking.
Yeah.
Get more women involved, and of course, we need to get more males involved as well, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question: what can males do to support women? We've talked about that before last year. And do you happen to know what the percentages for WIT? I think it was like 16% women, men. I'm not sure if that changed.
Yeah, I'd have to look at any news. I know they post new stats a couple of times a year, but yeah, as far as women in the industry, I think it's still around 13%. Christy, I don't know if you've seen anything different, but I think the last statistics that they provided was 13%. So yeah, we'd certainly like to see that grow, right? So
hey, I just renewed my membership I'm there.
Good.
Come on, guys, get on board this train. Come on,
Good,
Yeah,
good,
help
good.
women. Let's go.
And with that being said, I would, just say that I think obviously we're moving in the right direction, and there is a lot more women in transportation. But I think the biggest thing is, what can men do to help that so the women can continue to go up the ladder and be in that C-suite, because that's where I think a lot of women are not obtaining, those seats and that level. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I
stats
mean,
are staggering. I mean, it's just
yeah.
so low in C-suite. And then there's women of color in the C-suite. They only take up 8%. That's hideous. That is really, really hideous as a whole.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think, obviously, leadership, from the male standpoint, to help encourage and create that more diverse, C-suite group, is, they need to, promote all areas of the business internally. Right. So, and then, just, I don't know. It's all about perspectives too. I think, you want all the different perspectives. I think they should, right? That's what you need to look at for your business. For your business to be successful, you need to have multiple perspectives. You can't just be, kind of pigeonholed and have blinders on, because you're potentially missing out, right? You're missing out on, a sector of business that you could be selling to, or, a different industry to service. So, to have multiple perspectives at the table to just, really review everything about, what your business does, who you service, how you service them, what opportunities are out there. I think that's the most important piece, is just inviting everyone to the table,
Right.
I agree.
Diversity.
So,
Yeah, diversity is huge. So, I mean, with you talking a little bit about that, what about your company that you work for? What is your company doing to help promote women within the company? Like, have you had to go through that process? Like, was it a struggle for you to potentially move up, or maybe you didn't want to move up, but like seeing other women move up within the organization?
Yeah. I think my company has done a phenomenal job. I mean, we are just thinking of all the levels of management up to the C-suite. I think we are actually predominantly female. So
Very cool.
so we definitely are not lacking in that area, I think. Several, I'd say probably half of our C-suite level is female. So yeah, we have, I think some really good diversity out there. There's definitely good conversation. I know in our, the leadership meetings that I'm a part of. So yeah, like I said, it's you get the perspectives, right? And it really does make a difference in how you move your business forward.
And you feel like the men in your company make it comfortable for the women, or do they feel comfortable, I guess, with having more women? Because that's something I talk about, because we're like 70% women here. So
Right.
how does that make the men feel?
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've never experienced any situation where, anything was uncomfortable or felt like, it's a little heavy on one end rather than the other, or, there's never been any issues with, kind of really, I would say, speaking your mind. I mean, they encourage just that openness and honest opinions. They appreciate it. So, it makes for very good dialogue, when we're discussing, anything that, is going to be change or how we want to move forward. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. How do you approach leadership in a male-dominated industry, and what strategies have you found effective in getting respect and influence?
Sure. One of the first things, and I feel like so many of us struggle with it, I'll have to say, for myself, it's never been too much of a struggle, but, just having self-confidence, right? You have to have the confidence in yourself to, walk into that meeting, knowing what you know and being confident in what you know, right? Knowing what you bring to the table, and just having a little bit of a fearlessness about yourself, right? But then also, on the one side, being confident in your knowledge, but then also not having, that too big of the ego that everything either, right? Go in with, wanting to not be the smartest person in the room. I've said that for years and years, and I don't know if anyone else has ever coined it before me, but I've always said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Wrong room.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to be that elephant by any means. Have you ever had any pushback? Have you ever any pushback at all?
Yes, but I don't necessarily feel that it's because of my gender, right? I think maybe, it was just, pushback because of difference of opinions and things, or different perspectives, right? And so, you kind of have to, fight for your side, right? And what you're believing in for whatever that thing is. So, but I think it's been healthy pushback. I've never been offended by it or anything. It's never been, presented to me in a way that, I felt like I was being questioned or my
So it's more of, can we agree to disagree kind of deal?
It's sometimes it ends up being that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you known anybody that you've talked to that had a different perspective as far as what happened to them when they were in a meeting and what happened, and did you ever discuss with you or anything like that?
As far as like another female counterpart?
Yeah, pushback, like nasty pushback.
Yeah. I've certainly heard some horror stories from some other women, not within my company, but
good.
Within other companies that, have come to me again. We go back to that mentorship part to say, hey, I just had to give this presentation, or I was in this meeting with this thing, and it, kind of the other people came back at me really harshly, and this is what they said or how it was handled or anything like that. So, certainly walked through some of those scenarios with people and given, kind of my own opinion and any guidance, that I could give based on whether it, was an HR perspective or just a female perspective, or again, depending on, what industry that person is, if it was industry knowledge, like, oh, well, did you, do you know this? Did you say this or, present this back or anything like that? So yeah, there's definitely some horror stories out there, unfortunately, of that.
Yeah, I hear them way too often. I've been part of those stories myself, growing up in the industry. So it's unfortunate, but I think the biggest thing that you talked about, like mentorship, I'm huge on mentorship. Like that's something I love to give back. And I think we talk about it quite a bit, like build your tribe of women to bounce things off of, or when something like that happens, they have somewhere to voice their opinion. And like you said, as women, we like to have our chit chats and talk about those things. And it can be very helpful for anyone out there that is struggling with the situation. And we encourage you to reach out and ask and talk about it so that you don't feel a certain way. Because I think the biggest thing that women lack in this industry in general, or being in a male dominated industry, is self-confidence. And knowing that just having that self-confidence can really help you go a long way. But it took me a long time to get there. And I still think we all struggle with imposter syndrome to an extent, which doesn't help when you're in those situations. So,
right.
But I'm going to change gears here a little bit. So why do you think logistics is a good industry for women to come into? Talk a little bit about what you've seen, the different roles, what women bring to the table in this type of industry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, for one, there are so many opportunities within the industry, right? I think when people hear transportation or trucking, or even logistics, if they're just not familiar with the industry at all, I feel like everybody's brain immediately goes to truck driver, which great, right? There are some phenomenal women truck drivers out there. And I would not discourage anybody from going that path. But I think, certainly we need to educate, women on just the opportunities that are out there. It's like, no, it doesn't mean you have to be a truck driver. There are a ton of other positions within the industry that allow you to be a part of it, right? That, that you can be in customer service, you could be in HR, you can be in finance, you could be in dispatch, you can be in, in the shop, you can be in mechanics, right? Like, I mean, there's so many different avenues, and so many places for you to gain multiple types of experience, right? So it's like you can kind of try out everything, and for the people who very much like myself are, we don't know what we want to be when we grow up.
Right?
you know,
That's true.
exactly.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Me too. So, there's so much opportunity for that, and at multiple skill levels too. That's the thing too. It's like people come in and say, oh, well, I don't have a degree, or I don't know about this. It's like, that's fine. You don't have to, you can start out here. And if you want to get to that position, you can work your way to that position, So I think it's just educating that and changing that mindset, right? Of when you hear transportation, it doesn't just mean a truck driver, right? There are, I think there's 3.5 million truck drivers. But what was the number? I think it's like there are 8 million people though that work in the transportation industry, right? That make it all work, right? So, the behind the scenes people, right? We're not the actual drivers, but we're the behind the scenes kind of helping to make sure that driver gets where they need to go safely. So I think that's the big piece of, just how we need to encourage women to get into the industry.
Yeah, you know what? I got a tricky question here. A lot of companies out there have safe rooms for women. So if something's going on, they feel safe. There's not going to be any repercussions or anything like that. They can go and they can talk to their HRBP and feel safe about it, that something went wrong. Should a male have a room, or should a company have a safe room for males?
Absolutely. I mean, that needs to be, all the way around, because, I don't know the statistics, so I'm not even going to pretend and throw out any numbers. But, we do talk about, women having issues, and that's where, I don't want to say problems, but, where we need that space. But, it happens for men as well, so, I mean, it's, there's harassment goes both ways. Bullying goes both ways, just uncomfortable situations goes both ways. So yeah, there definitely just needs to be a general safe space, for someone to go to within a company to be able and feel comfortable enough, to have someone to talk to bring that up and feel safe enough that there's not going to be any repercussions on them, right? So that it's going to be handled in a way that is, sufficient and safe for everybody involved. So,
yeah. And the reason why I say that is that, I've been in the industry for a long time. And when we used to go to the water fountain, we would discuss and there'd be cursing and whatever. We really didn't think about that 20 or 30 years ago, because it wasn't something that was prevalent, that anybody really discussed as they discuss now. And so when that happens, guys have to watch what they're saying. They really do. They can't be free will and say what they want to say in a corporate, environment. And that's why I said I think that would be a great idea for companies out there to incorporate such a thing as a male safe room so that they can go in there and be educated, get trained, especially when there's more women in an environment or less. It doesn't really matter. It's the way that you conduct business and communicate with each other.
Sure.
That's interesting you say that too, because I feel like men and women are so different that I don't know that a male would be like, I need to go to this space, whether it's to educate or get a break, or I feel like they would probably be just as quiet as some women are sometimes. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting. We'll have to ask some of our male guests coming up.
Yeah.
Definitely, because it's if their job is at risk for saying something stupid, and they think that it's sexual harassment or going over to hug, their counterpart or whatever, that's preyed upon in a lot of corporations, that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, there's hardly any companies out there that have their husband and wife working in the same corporation, or if they do, they're far away from each other because, productivity, efficiency, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's why I suggested that some time ago, that it's, I just think that it would be fantastic for corporations to enforce that and make.
Yeah. I think, just speaking on the transportation industry side, where I would say companies would struggle with it a little bit maybe is, the majority of the trucking companies out there, they're small businesses, right? They're not huge. So, and one thing that, if you're not part of this industry, then, you're not familiar enough to know though, that, I mean, the companies that I've been a part of and had as clients, or, been, lucky enough to go in and meet with their people or anything like that, they're families, they're probably family run businesses, Christy's familiar with that. Right. And the people that work there, everybody just becomes family. Right. And they've probably, everybody that's worked there for the most part has probably been there just about since the company started. So, the way you talk to each other and interact with each other, yes, can be very different, and it can be very difficult for those groups if a new person comes in, all of a sudden you have to kind of undo what you've been doing for the last 10, 15, 20 years, right? It's like, oh, we can't act like that or say those things because this person has just joined. Right. And it's kind of hard to switch your brain, right? And so,
well, and just to talk about that a little bit more too, because of my family business and my dad, again, having that family atmosphere, but then my dad was the biggest HR nightmare that you could have. Because the stuff that would come out of his mouth, it's like, you don't say that. But I think, again, owning the company or whatnot, I think some people feel like it's their right to say whatever they want. And
exactly.
Again, that old school mentality, and maybe there's not a lot out there anymore, but my goal was to keep him out of the office. So we didn't have any issues when it came to that, because some of the stuff is laughable, to be quite honest, that he says, and thank God our people were they thought it was funny versus taking it another way, but it's a serious problem. It could be a serious problem. So. But on that note, we're going to go into our sponsors here for a quick couple minutes. So I want to talk about today's episode of Empowering Women into Logistics podcast is brought to you by Freight Validate and TAFS. We are proudly sponsored by TAFS, your trusted partner in transportation factoring solutions. TAFS specializes in purchasing accounts receivable from small and medium-sized transportation companies, helping them boost profits and increase cash flow. With a focus on exceptional client service, TAFS has risen to become a leader in transportation factoring industry. Ready to elevate your company's financial success? Well, contact TAFS today at 913-393-6100 to learn more about how we can support your business. Visit TAFS.com. TAFS.com for comprehensive information on their services and start maximizing your company's potential with TAFS.
Trucking excellence meets unparalleled service. Enjoy exclusive benefits like our fantastic tire discounts. Need cash fast? Try our 1-hour advances. Plus, we're here for you 365 days a year. Need loads? We have a pro dispatch service. This is why TAFS was recognized as the top factoring company in 2023. You'll benefit from strategic partnerships for enhanced operations. Access business loans and manage your finances easily with our client portal, F2 Fuel Card, and mobile app. At TAFS Factoring, we're more than just a factoring company. We're your partner in success. Contact us today to see how we can help your trucking business thrive.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Freight Validate, the ultimate identity and compliance verification system for the logistics industry. Freight Validate empowers shippers, brokers, carriers, and more to ensure compliance with regulations and mitigate fraud risk. With Freight Validate, you can easily verify entities' compliance status and identify potential threats within minutes. Don't risk your business with unverified carriers or brokers. Choose Freight Validate for peace of mind. Learn more at freightvalidate.com and start your verification process today.
Motor carriers depend on Freight Validate to stop fraud, but they can't do it alone.
Shippers must verify every carrier that comes in to pick up a load.
Hey Siri, check Freight Validate.
Sure, what's the MC number?
123127.
The company you can rent ME LLC is a carrier and cannot be completely validated at freightvalidate.com. The platform is not able to verify information obtained in federal, state, or public sources in regard to identity, risk assessment, or compliance history with 100% certainty. Please follow company protocols for additional safety and compliance vetting. For more information, please go to freightvalidate.com.
Fly-by-night freight brokers, how can I help you?
Mr. Broker, why did you send me this carrier? They are not validated on Freight Validate. Please do not send me any carrier that is not validated on Freight Validate. If you are not using Freight Validate, I suggest you start. I'm sorry, we cannot load you. Your company does not meet our compliance standards. Please call your dispatcher for more information.
Fraud starts with fraud. It ends with Freight Validate.
Awesome.
We're back.
Awesome. Well, let's get into something a little bit different. Let's see here. Can you talk a little bit about what qualities make a great female leader? You've had, 25 years in the industry. Obviously, you've probably learned, you've learned a lot along the way. So what type of skills do you feel, are good with a female leader?
Sure. I think having empathy, any leader, right? Having empathy is kind of first and foremost, regardless of male or female. You want someone who shows just as much respect as they are given with the company, someone who kind of is worthy of the respect, right? Someone who's engaging, not someone who just is kind of holed up in their office all day and you just don't really know, what's going on with them, or they don't come out to really kind of check on the business overall and touch base with people. So, you want a leader that's engaging, somebody who kind of gets in the trenches too. You can't be afraid to roll your sleeves up, right? And get in there and do the dirty work right next to, all of your people. Sometimes that's what has to be done. That brings me back to just the respect piece, right? If I'm struggling with something, I don't want someone to just say, okay, well, good luck figuring it out.
Right.
Let me know how that goes. You want someone, you want someone who, will kind of get in there and say, well, let's figure it out. Let's see how it goes. You want, and then to have that cheerleader, right? You want to cheer your people on and let them know, hey, you're doing a great job. Let's keep it going. Let's keep that momentum going. So, to me, those are kind of the key pieces of being a great leader in general. One of the scenarios that I've brought up before in some other conversations is, somebody who kind of like your parent, when you're learning to ride your bike without training wheels, I think a leader, the parent doesn't run in front of the kid, right? You don't run in front of the kid and be like, come on. You kind of,
I do sometimes. Because we're like, faster.
Right. Let's go. But you're usually behind them, right? Kind of guiding them, but not pushing them along the way, but giving that guidance. And then once they kind of get it, you just kind of let them go and watch. And then again, that cheerleader comes in once, because they don't even realize they're doing it, right? And so to me, that's what makes a great leader.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think the biggest piece is empathy that a lot of leaders don't have, unfortunately. And you talk about it enough that you hope that people do pick up on it, that maybe don't have the empathy or why it's so important. Because it's interesting. It's something that I went through with my father, and he would do anything for anybody. But when it came to working in the business, it was like, don't you have any empathy towards anyone in their situation? Like, no, he would tell people, you're here to make me money. And I'm like,
oh,
yeah, I'm not even kidding. That like people get that, right? But you don't tell them that to their
right.
kids.
It's like, you're not wrong. However, don't say it out loud.
So when I talk about damage control, it was hard.
Come on, Dad.
I mean, everyone loved him, but they also respected him. I think, it's just such a weird situation. But yeah, I think empathy is the biggest thing that I think a leader needs to have to be most effective, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one critical thing is emotional intelligence.
Yes.
I mean, I think that is the critical factor that is lacked in a lot of corporations. I think that they need, part of their training should be that. I mean, more than anything else. I mean, it's listening with intent. We talk about it so many times. Some people just listen to listen, but they don't gain any knowledge from what they may have heard. But if you listen with intent and you have emotional intelligence, you'll be able to respond accordingly and not say the wrong things that lift them up instead of tear them down, and that's what happens in a lot of corporations out there.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of practice. And I think just like wanting to be better yourself and looking into what you can do. And I think asking your people, what can you do as a leader to better help, whether it's them, the group, the company. It's interesting because I ask people, especially my COO, like, can you tell me things that I need to do better or work at? And I feel like people are afraid to tell me because I own the company, but it's like, I'm not perfect either. We all need to help each other understand why these things impact our company, our people. And if I was acting in a manner like my dad would be, and I would tell him all the time, like, this is not going to get people to want to do a good job for you, Dad. Believe it or not. And some of those people are still here 27 years later, so it's kind of crazy. Maybe I did some damage.
Faith. Yeah. They had faith, Christy. They had faith in you.
Yes. But I was curious too. I don't know how large the company is that you work for, but are there programs or anything in place for women to gather and talk, or just, talk about how they can help each other, or just, that sounding board? Because I know some companies have groups that they've built within the company to kind of have this women's group, or maybe it's diversity, right? As far as colors or whatever it might be, to make you feel more inclusive. Is your company doing anything like that, or trying to, like, just to give you an example, we had a woman leadership coach that I used for a lot of our leaders here. We used to use a male. I'm like, maybe a woman leadership coach would be different. And then my male COO decided, hey, can I work with the woman leadership coach to better understand how to work with women? Things like that.
Sure. We do have a culture council. So that's, kind of something that is, again, for our whole company. And so there's constantly things going on, whether it's just yeah, just quick little meetings to get together, what water cooler meetings, things like that. And just different activities, for just engagement with everyone, because for the most part, our company, as so many companies are now, everybody's remote for the most part, right? So, we don't pass each other in the hallway, we don't get to pop into each other's office to have those quick conversations. So they've done a really good job of putting together that, like I said, that culture council, and just making sure that, yeah, there are just little meetings and events like that to allow for that, for the company. And then for the most part too, I mean, everybody in the company, even up to our CEO, has, again, even though we're remote, kind of an open door policy, right? So, so if I need to reach out to our CEO, I can pop a message over on Teams to just say, hey, I was wondering about this, and it's not frowned upon, or it's not like, oh, you have to go through my secretary first or schedule a meeting. It's, everything's, very fluid. So, so we do have that in place, and just the overall encouragement of being a part of Women in Trucking, or any kind of, female organization or anything that supports that or encourages that. I mean, we certainly, it's encouraged, for us to be a part of those things.
No, that's awesome. Since you mentioned that the company is completely remote, do you ever get together as a group, like in person? Like, how does that work? Because I'm sure everyone's across the country potentially.
Yeah. Yep. So we do have an annual meeting where, the good majority of us all get together, kind of our own little company conference, right? And that happens in the fall. And then, depending on where everybody is located, we may or may not be close enough, some of us. So, we get together, or I will go visit, well, what was, my office. Again, I used to be operations manager for what was our personnel operations. And so I would go up to that office, all the time to visit with all of the people, and just check in on everything and everyone. So there's definitely opportunity for us to connect, and a lot of us too, maybe we connect at conferences. I'll be going to a risk management conference in April that our director of claims is going to be at. So I'll get to, interact with her. So we have those opportunities as well.
Well, that's good to hear. I would imagine. So we're hybrid here, where we're in the office 3 days a week, out 2 days, but the other 2 days, some people come in the office. I would love if they would come in the office another day. I love my hybrid as well, but I would imagine depending on what you do, I guess. When you're booking freight, it can be a little bit challenging, I think, when you're not completely with the team, even though you have the chats and all that kind of stuff. But I'd love to hear that people can reach out to the CEO. It's the same way here, where they can reach directly out to me, and whether they come in the office or ask me a question. And it's funny because all my coaches are like, you have to not be so visible, so available. And I'm like, that's part of building this. Like, I get that. It's not like I get bombarded by people asking me questions. I still think sometimes I call them to my office to ask, and I'm like, listen, I don't fire anyone. You're not coming here to be fired.
Right. Yeah. It's not, you're not having to come to the principal's office. It's fine. Right, you're okay.
Right. It's
you have to start that invitation off with, you're not being fired. Can you come to my office for
Right. It's unfortunate though, but there's a lot of business owners that are driven by their ego, and they push their title all over. It's such a wrong thing. Who cares about titles? I don't care about title. If you treat people the way that you would like to be treated, things change, and they change amazingly, But a lot of times it's just that, no, it's my way or the highway kind of deal. That doesn't fly. I don't know how you thought about that, but I know that's definitely not the right way to go. So I got one more question for you. What is something you would have known earlier in your career? What's some advice that you could give some women out there that would benefit them?
Sure. So known earlier in my career in transportation. We'll
Yeah.
go with that.
Yeah.
Well, again, like I said, I kind of stumbled into it myself. So what I wish I had known was just how massive the industry is, right? Because I was one of those people who had that mindset of if you said something about transportation, my brain went straight to truck driver. And so, did I see myself in this industry? Nope, not for any particular reason. I just didn't.
Right. No, I agree. I feel like it's almost like people, like not just truck driver, but almost like it's like, I hate to say the word, but dirty in a sense. It's
Yeah.
like it's not sexy, so to speak.
Right,
You got a dirty job.
exactly.
Yeah, you can say that.
Exactly.
You can say that. It's a
Exactly.
little dirty day in and day out. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think, to just know, yeah, how massive the industry is, and just going back to the earlier question, of getting women in, to know that, yeah, there are a million different opportunities. It's not just getting into a truck. It's not just, not getting your hands dirty. You can be completely clean all day and stay clean all day, and still work in transportation.
True. Unless you're driving a forklift or stocking shelves, then you get the calluses and you know what kind of job you have. By shaking
Exactly.
someone's hand.
But you can still do that job if you want to be dirty.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
That's it. Well, Stacey, thank you so much for joining us today. How would people get in contact with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. All of my contact information is there. If you want to chat about anything trucking, or are interested in hearing more about what my company does, certainly shoot an email to me at sgibson@tlccompanies.com. But would love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn.
And do you have any events that you're going to be going at in the very near future?
Like I said, so far, I'll be at a risk management conference in Indianapolis in April. And then, I'm actually in the process of looking at, all of the conferences. I know the trucking conferences are well underway, with Matt's just starting last week, and I totally missed it and have had FOMO all week about it. And TCA, I think, is going on right now. So certainly, I'll certainly be posting stuff out on LinkedIn wherever I'll be going, but NAPIO Risk Management Conference in April is the earliest thing I'll be at coming up.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining Christy and myself today. I thought we had a very engaging conversation, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, I enjoyed it very much. Thanks for having me.
It was great to hear your story and talk about your perspective, and you had some great advice for all of our listeners. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
So, folks, you can join Christy and myself on the Storytelling Chronicles, Empowering Women into Logistics, every Monday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Until next week, we'll see you then. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much.
Bye.